Today's podcast is sponsored by Security Unlocked, and you can find links down in the description below. Hit subscribe today or tomorrow or someday.
Morning, Brad.
Wow. Usually the Chromecast, whatever, drops out, and I guarantee by the end of the episode it'll be ruined. But
let's point fingers where they belong. You mean, it just corrected itself.
Yeah, but the problem is that it'll sit like this for like 10 seconds, and then I'll go to try to change it. Oh, now it's still working. Maybe it knew we were recording, so it's acting appropriate.
If I die of a heart attack today, or I get hit by a bus or something, I want everyone to know that I hated my time on this earth. No, that that my biggest pet peeve of all is exactly the thing you're describing here. If you had to lump every complaint I've ever made into one basket, it is literally the unknowable unreliability of technology. And this industry is based around everything is 1 or 0. It should be the most precise thing in the world, and it isn't. And it's so imprecise. I've often said it's like magic.
Well, I'm sure quantum computing will fix that when we have 1, 0, and then like an actual phase in between, which will be
exactly 0, 1, and the infinite number of possibilities between those two numbers.
It'll be great.
In 3 dimensions or whatever.
It'll be great. Did you see that Salesforce finally won its battle with Microsoft?
Oh, no, I didn't see that. What happened?
Yeah. So I like to
How much does it cost to be in second place, Brad? What's the running tally there?
Well, they just won I guess I should account for inflation, but I like to think that Salesforce, when they lost to Microsoft to buy LinkedIn, which Microsoft paid $26.2 billion for, they went back and said, we're going to buy a company for more than LinkedIn. And so
mission accomplished.
And so they did. So they bought Slack for we'll round up and say $28 billion.
I thought it was it? Oh yeah, you're right.
It's 27.7 something. 20.
Yeah, and you know,
I mean, the good thing is the Slack is making money, right? Like they're not. Oh no, they're not.
It sounds like. I mean, we'll see what they do with this. I don't really know much about Salesforce's products, right? I don't use them, obviously.
Customer 360.
I know. It's so exciting. But it sounds like they're going to take the Slack user experience and kind of apply it to their other stuff, right? So unlike LinkedIn, if you are a Salesforce customer, you actually might see some changes from this acquisition. So, you know, whatever. I mean, like Slack was always going to be bought by somebody. Salesforce is one of the 3 or 4 companies that are big enough to afford it and could make some use of it. You know?
Yeah. I would say I'm sure there's other companies out there. And technically, I guess maybe they couldn't afford it, but I don't know. Because they took out like a $10 billion loan to make this happen. But that could just be them borrowing money because it's cheap. Either way, but they're one of the few companies that can actually buy Slack and then not be instantly slammed by the government for antitrust. So,
yeah. No, I think this will sail through. I don't see any issues there. I don't know. There's no way to know what the world would have been like had Microsoft purchased this company, right? It's possible that Teams or whatever they called it might have become the same thing anyway. You know, who knows?
I don't know if it would have been. I bet you. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that Teams may not exist today if it wasn't for Slack. At least maybe in its current iteration, or as fast.
For sure, no, you're right. What I meant was Microsoft might have bought Slack. Pretend that might have become Teams. I guess it's actually not that hard to conject what would have happened because Microsoft likes to make these big acquisitions and then keep that company kind of separate as its own thing. So I think maybe it's fair to say it wouldn't have become the Teams we know today. It would have stayed the same. And it would have been a separate thing. And I think because it was brought in-house, whatever combination of leadership and program managers or whoever it was, the decision makers on this, decided they were going to just pile it on, you know? And Teams today is, my God, it is Microsoft 365. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure it's more than this now, 115 million daily active users. And I don't know if you saw this come across, this was a couple weeks ago, but they looked at, or they published, they have to, like what Satya Nadella's compensation bonuses are going to be based on for, 2021
Is
or whatever.
Teams adoption one of them?
Teams adoption is a larger percentage, I think, this year than it was last year.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, Game Pass subscriptions went from like 7% down to 5%. So it's like a sizable chunk of his bonus will be based on how quickly they can continue to grow teams. So if you want to, bet your horses or put your money on the horses where Microsoft's betting, no surprise, it's an outset bet wager on teams yet again.
I would never do this, but when you think about books that are kind of like the Windows 10 book I have, like Teams would be an obvious choice. I don't know enough about it. I don't care enough about it. But the bigger issue, honestly, would just be keeping up to date with it.
Yep.
I don't know how you could. I don't know how Microsoft does it.
Yeah. I mean, it's every month there is a laundry list of. I mean, they just announced stuff yesterday.
I know, but did you see the post? Did you actually look at it? It's seriously, it's like 3,000 words long. I don't know how they do this.
So what Microsoft did announce yesterday, for those who aren't aware, is an update to the calling experience, like the actual dial experiences in Teams. There's a new UI. There's also a bunch of new lower cost hardware coming for like the enterprise, where they can slap a phone in a desk, and there's going to be a big purplish blue button that says Teams and a bunch of other stuff. But one thing they did announce, Paul, and I emailed them for clarification. They announced that Teams is going to have native CarPlay integration, which is an iOS device. There is no timeline for release for Android Auto, which is
there's been a lot of speculation about that. I don't know enough about it, but some of the readers, I don't know what this was based on, but someone was saying that maybe Android, for some reason, or Google has more stringent requirements for Android Auto apps than Apple does for CarPlay. I
can't imagine that.
Seems unlikely to me, but there it is. I mean, but this is the dark side of, I would call it the Microsoft 365 problem, which is they have an uncountable number of products and services that got an uncountable number of updates every month against a random selection of target clients, and this is what happens every time. Anytime you write anything that's Microsoft 365 or a product that's part of Microsoft 365 gets some feature, someone will say, well, what about this? Like, okay, so they got it on the web and Windows. I'm on a Mac, or I'm on mobile, or I'm on, or I use Android Auto in this case. What about that? And they don't ever address that. I mean, it will likely happen, right? I mean, over time, but
yeah, I'm sure those people who spent $1,500 on a Surface Duo are just real happy that they are getting sidelined by Teams.
Fair enough. I actually, it's interesting. This is also kind of the dark side of Microsoft's kind of heterogeneous approach to client computing, right? We're going to go where the customers are, where everyone is welcome. It's not Windows first. It's not Windows only. But, back in the day when it was Windows first to Windows only, the one bit of reliability or whatever, of certainty, was you knew that whatever the new thing was, it was going to appear on Windows,
Yep.
It's a little confusing now.
Also, the other big news of the day is an 8, an 8, and an 8 from our friends over at the Qualcomm. They're in it. I think they're. I don't know if I'm going to write this up. I think they are in a really weird and awkward position right now. Yeah. Because on one hand, right, nobody else, like they ship that chip, and we all know it's going to end up in every popular smartphone, minus an iOS device for the year ahead. Like that's it. Like that's the chip. That's the best one that everyone gets. But then at the same time, though, it's instantly now being compared to Apple's like M1 chip, where it is quite candidly getting steamrolled in almost every capacity. But on the same point, like, what's the benefit of Qualcomm like going crazy with the specs, because nobody can buy an M1 chip for their phone or their device. Only Apple can make it. So yes, they compete, but they don't really compete. And then Qualcomm has no real competitors on its side right now. So it's right. Unfortunately, this problem is now happening to the PC space too because of the M1 Max, right? So you've got these chipsets from Apple that go bonanza on benchmarks, and it's like the Qualcomm part or the Intel part, or whatever we want to compare it to, doesn't measure up. And it's really bad. What are we going to do? It's over. What's happening? The truth is, if you buy you buy an Android flagship, I was going to say, the performance is fantastic. Yep.
It's just, real world, the difference between like an M1 based MacBook Air and any PC you choose, there's no real world. Both work great. Same thing's true with smartphones. I'm using right now a Google Pixel 4a 5G, which has what I'll call a mid-level. It's kind of a low-end Snapdragon chipset. I think it's a 700 series, but It's nowhere near the performance. I think it's less than 50% on benchmarks, the performance of an 8 series Qualcomm chip. So it works fine. I mean, like, I don't know what to say to people. So the one thing that's going to be interesting about next year, I think on the Android side, is not this thing. And by the way, 888, where did this number come from? This is like a lucky number thing, 888?
That would be my guess, yes.
We made this for the Chinese or something? It's very strange. I mean, well, no, it didn't follow it's a lucky number.
No, I know.
Okay, fine. But one thing I've heard about, and maybe they'll announce that today or something, because I know this Qualcomm virtual event is a couple of days long, but there's a new range of 700 series chipsets coming. And so it might actually be like the 787 or something like that. I don't know the number.
I'm sure Boeing will be happy about that.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. 788 or something. Who knows?
As soon as they call their low end high performance chip the 737 Max.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you might want to avoid that one. Man. I don't know what it is. It just keeps dropping out of my hand and smashing on the ground. Too soon. Okay. So anyway, supposedly these new 700 series chipsets are supposed to be fantastic. And so if you think about the success of mid-level smartphones this year with the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, Samsung's getting rid of the Note and moving to folding displays, and these high-end phones are not selling very well. Improving the performance there actually, to me, makes a lot more sense. It is the one thing that's good about the iPhone SE. It's like a low-end phone with a really high-end chip. It's that kind of thing aids, in future-proofing. So if you think about like a future Pixel or a future, Samsung Fan Edition or Moto phone or whatever it is, like these mid-level phones, like next year, actually, they could be significantly better than mid-range phones in the past. Whereas I think like an 888 based phone is going to be just like last year's phones. They were already fantastic. So that kind of improvement is still important. I know we're all so stressed over Apple for some reason.
Yeah,
but it doesn't really impact anything on the Android or Windows side of the fence. Not really, right?
I'm trying to fix my display because it broke again.
Yeah, jeez.
Just like, anyways, but
maybe reboot it.
I don't know.
Like install a firmware update.
Like, I just got to sit here. As long as I can keep sending signals back and forth, it won't rot out. But
I'll just sit there and flick through that. That's not distracting.
It's fine. This is technology at the end of 2020. Like, and someone's going to say, "Well, Brad, why don't you just run an HDMI cable?" Which I have contemplated. The problem is, which right here is, you can see there's no cables. It's because they're conveniently hidden behind this paneling. And to run an HDMI cable means I have to take this off. But it's not just take it off and put a cable there.
I mean,
take it off and then.
Do you have a little box down there below where the cables come out, like the power cable or something? Or like a hole in the wall or something?
Oh no, I completely forgot that thing has a breakout box. Look at that.
Well, I'm just, it's possible.
Yeah, the question is what?
Look, guys, I don't know how much you guys expect for free, but I think the level of quality we're getting right now is pretty much par for the course.
Look, nothing says podcast like triaging, but this thing doesn't even have HDMI out. It's got USB.
Yeah. You need an adapter for like whatever. What do you have? A Surface
Book 3. I mean, it's a good machine.
So USB-C to HDMI.
Yeah. Maybe
actually, does your TV? Oh no, the TV doesn't have USB-C.
Maybe that's my solution.
So that TV has a big breakout box.
Yeah. That's HDMI. What I just kind of realized. It's sitting right down there.
Where
is
that? Is it hanging off your wall there?
Yeah, no, it's down on the ground.
Yeah. Okay.
So I should plug it into that rather than trying to plug directly in.
I think this has been a multi-year experiment using Miracast that has failed. And I also think that you have used Miracast more than any human being on this earth and should receive an award of some kind for that.
Maybe a nice Qualcomm 888 or something.
An 888, yeah.
So what? That should be showing up. Samsung Galaxy S20, whatever number where they're at, 30 something.
Even S30 or S21, whatever it's called, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, which is going to happen quick, actually, supposedly in January, and will include a model that will replace the Note line.
Yeah, which is interesting too. That they're finally, sounds like they're going to sunset that entire product line.
They had a good 10-year run, And really honestly, having evaluated these things the past 2 years in a row, I mean, the S whatever and the Note are, almost identical. They have slightly different designs, and then the Note has the pen. That's pretty much it. It's a matter of on the wrong one again, aren't we?
Not even it's a completely wrong podcast at this point. Like, this isn't even. Yeah.
Right. All right, let's talk about enterprise stuff. So,
so how do you feel about Slack licensing under the Salesforce?
It's like a roulette wheel. Just see what the image comes up, and then we'll just talk about that.
I wonder how quick.
Now we're going to talk about space. The final frontier.
We could talk about Oracle licensing. We haven't talked about that. I don't think ever. Maybe.
Oh boy.
What other companies are out there that we never talk about?
Put some Irish whiskey in my coffee, and then we can start talking about Oracle.
All right. Let's see how long this takes.
What are you doing?
Disconnect, reconnect. Which, by the way, I really like this wallpaper. I think that's pretty.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice thing. Please don't ask for where I got it, because I have absolutely no idea.
There you go.
It was just in a folder I have literally called wallpapers. So, There we go. Anyways, folks, this very highly produced podcast today was sponsored by Security Unlocked. You can find links down in the description below or aka.ms/securityunlocked. Hit that subscribe button today, gain some new knowledge, and it's I've actually listened to every episode. It's pretty darn good.